Fashion Tech Alliance involves higher educational institutions, small, medium and big enterprises and the research center. This project has been co-founded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union and is aimed to facilitate knowledge exchange between partners and to design and pilot learning experiences to engage students in a fashion tech residency program, embedding young talents in the company's innovation activities. A central objective of the project is to design multidisciplinary and intersectoral learning activities involving international students from 5 European universities. The contents of the lectures have been specifically created to match the needs of fashion tech learning. They have become open educational resources to allow future engagement between a European-wide fashion and textile HEI community and are available under Creative Commons Share-alike 4.0 with the aim of a wide and free distribution, access, use and reuse. Ready to learn more about fashion tech? Enjoy the lecture!
Hi, I am Erminia, PhD candidate at the Design Department of Politecnico di Milano. Here, I'm working on my research that concern sustainability issues in an environmental, social, cultural and economic context where design can be a vector for positive change. In today's lesson, we will focus on exploring the fashion productive process and its impacts, how resources are exploited and how waste is produced. Then we will focus on waste, the potential of waste, and the different opportunities enabled by the waste reuse. Then we will investigate some best practices that today are applying innovative practices or are approaching in new ways the waste. Now let's explore how today the fashion system produces and which are the impacts related to these productive processes. The first thing to do is to address the context in which the productive processes happen. This is a linear context, as we have seen in the previous lesson about the dichotomy of the fashion system, the linear versus the circular model. Today, our economy is mainly focused on a linear economy. This means that the raw materials are used to make a product, and after its use, any waste is thrown away. This means that we are still following a path of raw materials, production, use, and recyclable waste. As reported by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, now is the moment to focus on the last two steps of the chain, the use and after-use phase, because this is the space for research, the space in which we can invest to find smart solutions for a better tomorrow. The necessity to focus on the last two steps of the supply chain is even more important if we read the market request. As you can see, the higher the purchasing power, the more you produce, buy, and the less you use. And this is a big issue because this growth and degrowth has a whole series of impacts on the planetary system, both in terms of environmental and social issues. This decline in usage times that is underlined in the market request diagram is translated in reality in unused materials, but materials in the fashion system play the most important role in terms of environmental and social cost with their sourcing and production practices. I'm talking about water, chemicals, energy. The data are indeed alarming if we consider that we operate within a system of finite resources. We need to consider that 20% of industrial water pollution comes from the fashion industry, specifically from textile treatment and dyeing. Almost 200,000 tons of textile microplastic fibers end up in the oceans every year. 23% of all chemicals produced worldwide are used for the textile industry. Almost 60 million oil barrels are used each year to produce polyester, and we have 400 more carbon emission produced if we wear our garment 5 times instead of 50 times. This last data emphasize the importance, the problems that is related to this decline in usage times of clothes. If we analyze the current circular model, the situation is not better. As you can see, there is the 73% of materials which is landfilled or incinerated. That's because, as we have argued in the previous lesson, today what is called the circular model is no more than a linear system in which we have some closed loop that is represented by some recycling initiative. But this is not a positive or circular model. This is not a sustainable system. That's the reason why it's so important focusing on that 73%, understanding the possibility and the potential that waste can have in closing the loop. We have investigated how today there are huge amounts of waste that are produced by the fashion system. Now, let's understand how this waste can be converted in a positive resource. Let's understand waste potential. So, first thing is to understand how much does garment industry actually waste. From a research by Reverse Resources emerged that from 37 million tons of fiber used by fashion, 25% become recyclable waste. We can conclude that the total volume of industrial recyclable textile waste is at least around 9 million tons globally per year. And as you can see in the infographic, they are a mix of different typology of fiber, in which the majority is polyester. This is not a surprise, as polyester today is the most produced fiber. So, on the bright side, a lot of these materials which are correctly collected, a lot of this waste already does get recycled. But on the other side, there are some major issues. Of 80% of recyclable waste needs to be manually sorted and during this process get lost. 40% of the waste really get discarded due to a too high contamination or mismatch with buyers due to price, location, or lack of market insight. The majority, almost 70% of the post-industrial textile waste is finding some next life cycle thanks to the collection and trading system, but there are no currently means of tracking down where the waste is actually ending up at. Finally, almost all of this waste is flowing to the other industries through industrial symbiosis practices and not stay in a closed loop system inside the fashion system. Not yet, at least, as we are hopeful for the next period of reform to start positive loop for the fashion system. Indeed, as we discussed in the previous lesson, the European Commission is starting a series of initiatives that will support the circular transition of the continent, and this could be a good opportunity to change the way in which the fashion system works, and this could be an opportunity to stop the fashion industry from feeding on a culture of wasteful overconsumption. The new waste rules will make EU global frontrunner in waste management and recycling. On the fashion and textile side, this will have some impact on how the member states will collect textiles. They will need to collect them separately by 2025, and this waste which is collected separately is not incinerated or landfilled. This is an important step towards circularity because this is an investment in supporting a circular transition and closing the fashion and textiles loops. But what does closing the loop mean? It means creating a new textile economy, but at the moment, no one knows how big the circular fashion industry is. Circular fashion is still a brand new concept and yet to be clearly defined. In its report, Vogue Business is mapping out the future of 3 trillion market value of current fashion industry if they move towards circularity. So, if they support an increased clothing utilization, a radically improved recycling, and an elimination of waste. But eliminating waste means transforming unused materials. This in a circular economy could happen in two ways, or improving recycling practices or improving industrial synergies. About recycling textiles and fashion materials, today this is happening developing four main directions: reusing, improving mechanical processes, improving chemical processes, and improving energy recovery. About reusing, it consists of recycling the garment by adding details, fixing or rearranging seams and buttons. About the mechanical process, this is a process that allows the chemicals and physical property of the thread material to be modified. About the chemical process, it uses chemical agents to separate all the elements that make up the material in order to obtain fibers. The energy recovery is about textiles, which can be no more used and that are burned to create energy. About the second opportunity, improving industrial symbiosis, this is about transforming waste from third industry. Industrial symbiosis, in fact, is the process by which wastes or byproducts of an industry or industrial process become the raw material for another. Now that we have identified direction for transforming unused materials, let's explore how today some companies are already improving these practices. The first direction is reusing, and the first best practice is the Counter. The Counter is an Italian brand. This is the first sustainable couture label that provides a bespoke service for the redesigning existing garments that have exceptional value for their owners but need to be given a new life. The designer specifically selects the garment she will work with, and based on the history of the owner and of the garment, she understands how to transform the cloth and how this will evolve according to the evolution of the owner. Comistra is an Italian company based in Prato. They are basing their own strategies on the belief that ethics and profit can work together, since there can be no long-term economic development separate from social and environmental development. Inspiring and aligning themselves with the Sustainable Development Goals, they are committed to generate positive worldwide change, assuming a clear environmental and social responsibility. Comistra aims to reduce the environmental impact of its activity by adopting an approach aimed at monitoring and continuously improving the performances. This strategy is based on compliance with current legislation, with a constant focus on innovation and research and development. Specifically, Comistra is a best practice in the mechanical recycling processes. They recycle recovered fabrics into high-quality fabrics with their own technology. They always had a strong vocation for innovation, which has led them to the creation of a complete cycle plant. This is a unique case in the world. They are able to recycle and transform textile byproducts and post-consumer materials into a fabric commonly known as mechanical wool or Prato wool. This is a recycled wool created without the use of new sheep fleece and endowed with a very high level of quality. They were able to reach the Global Recycle Standard certification. Comistra only works with mechanical processes that are able to minimize the use of chemicals which are dangerous for people and environment. Lansing is an Austrian company founded in 1938. They are a leader in operating in the fields of yarn, pulp and plastics. Today we will discover together their material called lyocell or tencel. These names refer to the very same material, which is a fiber produced from crushed cellulose dissolved in a chemical solution. The resulting product has a consistency similar to honey, but hardens when it passes through the dye. It therefore differs from viscose, which uses carbon disulfide but is still part of the cellulosic fibers. Tencel is not a natural textile fiber, as it is often called, but an artificial fiber made in the laboratory using processes and chemicals. The main characteristics are excellent strength, good breathability, and moisture absorption. The production process is not polluting, even the solvents used are not toxic and completely recyclable. However, although lyocell is biodegradable, it does not fully decompose if placed in a landfill. However, studies have shown that it can decompose in only 8 days in certain controlled environments. Specifically, the used material is dissolved in a solvent that can be purified and used again in the main process. The solvent itself is not toxic and not corrosive. The tencel is biodegradable, and the raw material from which it is made, cellulose, is renewable. It is easily obtained from managed and controlled tree cultivation that does not require chemicals, water, or energy. The important things when we talk about this typology of materials is underlining how this company are able to really close the loop. As you can see in the infographic, this is a closed loop process in which the resources, specifically the chemical resources that are used in the loop, are recycled and used again as new materials for the very same loop. Orange Fiber is an Italian company. They were the first and currently the only textile brand in the world to produce a sustainable citrus-based fabric. The intrinsic characteristics of the material make it silky, allowing it to meet the needs of innovation and sustainability of the fashion industry. The company's co-founder, Adriana Santanocito, has developed and protected with an Italian patent then extended to the international PCT her invention. Orange fiber technology is based on a process to produce spinnable cellulose from citrus fruits, such as oranges. Cellulose is extracted from citrus fruits, which come either from the waste of agricultural plantations and/or from the waste of the industrial processing of orange derivatives, such as fruit juice industries. Thanks to their pioneering production process, the company is able to produce a high-quality fabric that combines two pillars of Italian excellence, textile and food. You need to consider that every year up to 800,000 tons of citrus waste are produced. Cellulose can be extracted from two different sources, from the whole citrus fruit peel, which include both albedo and flavedo, or only from the albedo. The characteristic of this process is that cellulose is obtained by chemical extraction. This extraction is performed in the absence of chlorine, which includes treatment of the raw material obtained from citrus fruit with hydrogen peroxide. This is used under basic conditions. Cellulose obtained by this process can in turn be blended with cellulose obtained by different processes, for example, with cellulose extracted from wood. The strength of this production is therefore its ability to amortize cost and resource exploitation through the use of waste from third-party industry. This is the reason why orange fiber is a best practice in this category. They are the proof that positive synergies among different sectors and different industries are possible. And I will leave you now with a final consideration about the opportunities enabled by waste for our sector. The production and management of waste in the fashion industry is complicated. The industry has to communicate very clearly that materials and their recycling can be a challenge, and that the environmental challenges facing an industry as large and fast-moving as fashion are bound to be significant. The answers are many and complicated. I'll show you just some examples of possibilities that can be applied to our sector. But new ideas combined with detailed analysis and understanding can move us toward a more sustainable future. And even if recycling practice or the production of new bio-based material are not by themselves the answer to making fashion sustainable, they do signal a growing willingness on the part of some of the fashion biggest brands to make major investment to address sustainability challenges. This was the example of Lansing or the example of Ferragamo. They are big brands that they have the economic power to invest and to improve the current practices toward a more positive system.